Good morning, afternoon, or evening, y'all. My name is Shannon, and I decided to make this video for a multitude of reasons. So, as you guys saw by the title, I am going to be discussing books that, basically altered my brain chemistry. Some of them are, favorite books of all time, and they altered my brain chemistry in that way. Others are a little different. But I have not been in the best mood past couple days, past week. I can honestly feel myself going into a little bit of a depressive spiral, and I'm really trying to stop that from happening. But I thought that talking about these books might make me feel better. So let's just get started. So the first book that I have to talk about is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This one is a couple reasons for why it altered my brain chemistry. This book, I had no idea what I was getting into when I read this book. I knew that it was super popular. I knew that a lot of people adore this book, and I kind of thought I wasn't a big romance girly. I thought fantasy was better. Overall, I do think fantasy is a better genre, personally, for me. But this book is what got me into reading romance. This book is about Archer and Bree has recently moved to the small town of Pelion, yes, after a horrific thing has happened to her. And she's dealing with a lot of trauma from that, and as one does on their period, they go to the store to buy a bunch of chocolate. She does that, and her bag falls apart, I think, and she drops a bunch of tampons and chocolate in the parking lot of the store, and someone helps her, and she's like, thank you so much. She's super embarrassed because this guy is super handsome. He doesn't say anything back to her, and then she asks some people about the exchange, and they're like, that must have been Archer. He doesn't speak, at all. That just honestly kind of starts what is an incredibly beautiful love story between these two individuals. She basically just continues trying to reach out, be his friend, and he has kind of been a loner and been shunned by the town for years. And it's just such a beautiful story about reaching out to people, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. I adore this book. I reread it at least once a year. I would highly recommend it to anyone. Next, we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This I read earlier this year. I had been really wanting to get into classics for a really long time. A really long time. And it was always just really challenging for me to get past the language barrier that there is between these books and current English. And I finally decided to read it. I read it, I think, in 2 days. There's a video on my channel of me reading it somewhere. But this, it is the original romance novel, I feel like. I'm not sure if there are, any other romance novels before when this was published. I don't think so, if I'm being honest. This book is about Elizabeth and Jane Bennet, and they are the eldest sisters of the Bennet family. There are, I believe, 5 sisters, and there is a super rich unmarried man that comes to their town, and he quickly falls in love with Jane. His best friend, however, quickly doesn't like Elizabeth, and she doesn't like him right back. It's so good. The way that this book is written, it is probably the best well-written book I've ever read in my entire life. Not surprising, given when it was written. The double meaning of everything in this book is outstanding. I really want to find it. This is kind of the pinnacle scene in this book to me. As we referenced, Mr. Darcy and Miss Elizabeth do not like each other. They kind of revolve around each other in this book, and it's just so good. It's so good. Let me read this. It is a bit of a spoiler, but I mean, the book's 200 years old. Get over it. He says, "In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell me how ardently I admire and love you." I love this book so much. I love this book so much. And, you know, the title really kind of sums it up. He is way, way too prideful, and she has prejudice about him that she kind of just can't let go of. And it's an extremely beautiful story. This is one of my 6-star reads. It definitely just altered the way I approach romance books, because it really hit me so profoundly, and how deep this book went. This is how every romance book should be. I realize I feel like I'm just like slamming on current romance books right now, but I haven't been able to feel sated and satisfied after reading a romance book since I read this book. So I kind of blame this book. It just completely changed the way I approach romance books. Something that happens a lot in these books is that the girl never tries to fix the guy. Ever. He fixes himself in order to be worthy for the girl. That is the trope of these books. And I love Miss Austen so, so much. I think she would be incredibly proud if she could see the profound impact her novels have had on our culture today. It's such a good book. Oh my god. Next, this one didn't honestly come to mind at first when I was thinking about this, but then I saw it and I was like, you know, it changed my perspective on some things. Daisy Jones and the Six by Miss Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is about the forming and the breakup of a rock band in the 70s. It's completely fictitious. It's written completely in interview format, so every line in this book is dialogue between the interviewer and all the people she ends up interviewing. It's an incredible, incredible format of the book, the way that it is strung together. The first time I read this, I did not like it. I did not like it, but then I went back through it, and if you can see all the tabs I put in this book, I clearly liked it the second time. The main thing that really stuck with me from this book, as you can see, it's very, very early on. It's very early on. Daisy Jones has been perpetually treated horribly. Like, in her adolescence, it was horrible. There was an early pattern when she was starting to realize she wanted to do music and do this, where men kind of took advantage of her insights and her brain, and she would come up with lyrics like on the spot. They would take them. They would take them and give her no credit, act like they wrote the whole damn thing. And there's this one moment when she's like finally had enough, and she's like thinking to herself, what the hell makes you think I'm not going to use it in something one day? But of course, there it was in his next movie. She says, I had absolutely no interest in being somebody else's muse. I'm not a muse. I am the somebody. And that, I honestly don't know why that hit me so hard. I just loved it so much. And I just loved the way that she just didn't take anybody's shit. And a lot of times women are reduced to muses and nothing else. and I really liked the fact that she like stood her ground, and I don't know, I really loved it. Next, this one is again part of a series. It is the second book in a series. One of, yeah, I'd say it's one of my favorite series ever. The Ballot of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This book, I have no words for what this book is. The main premise of the first book, and basically the whole series, is Evangeline finds herself madly in love with this guy, and he is about to marry her stepsister. And so she goes and prays to the Prince of Hearts, Jax, to break this up. And he actually shows up in the church. He's like, how the f did you get in here? Anywho, she grants his wish, but in exchange, she has to kiss 3 people of his choosing when he chooses. And that the story just kind of goes on from there. This book is impeccable. I rated it 5 stars. The end of this book destroyed me. I don't even know how to articulate it properly, how much this book destroyed me. But in the series, she ends up going to like a faraway land for this ball for the prince or the king, I don't know which one, to like find his next wife. It gets so complicated. There are curses and spells. It's an excellent series. I honestly, like, thinking about the end of this series is making me go insane because it's just such a crazy ending. And I remember reading this and I was like, that cannot be it. Like, how can you leave me here? And then I had to wait 2 more months for the final book in the series to come out. But it's an amazing ending to the series. But it was just so good, and I think it honestly put me in a little bit of a book slump because I was like, what do I do? But I love fantasy. I don't know how to say it. I love fantasy so much. Okay, the next 3 books are all parts of a series. I honestly could have done without one of the books I'm about to tell you about. Not in terms of like, I don't really like the book in the series. I love the book. It's just not one of the ones that affected my brain chemistry. Anywho, we have the original ACOTAR trilogy. Because if you didn't know, this was originally supposed to be a trilogy. We have A Court of Thorns and Roses. I am going to talk about these separately. This book is about Farah, and Farah is hunting in the woods because her family is incredibly poor. She is also the youngest sibling in this family, and she's the one that goes out and hunts every day, which I have strong feelings about, but we're not going to get into that. And she's hunting one day, and she comes across this wolf that really strikes her as odd, and is like, I feel like killing this might be a mistake. But she ends up killing it, selling its pelt, and then one day, a beast breaks down their front door and is like, who the f killed him? And she's like, I did. And he's like, no the f you didn't, you're a girl. Like, you're a little young girl. And she's like, yes, I did. And he's like, okay, well, in turn, I can either kill you right here in front of your family, or you can come live at my manor for the rest of your life. If this is sounding familiar, the first book is technically a Beauty and the Beast retelling, or at least that's how it started. It goes on from there. The characters you meet and the villains in this book are so good. I've heard several people say that this book is hard to get into. I personally never felt that way, but the series gets infinitely better in the second book, which is A Court of Mist and Fury. This didn't really change my brain chemistry. I love it. Chapter 54 is everything. If you know, you know, but didn't alter my brain chemistry. Anywho, the way that this book really affected me was, this is the book that got me back into reading. So I'd say 3 years ago now, I read this book and it really felt like my world tilted off its axis. Because when I was a kid, I hated reading. My mom would make me read for at least 30 minutes every day. It felt like a chore. But the escapism that I receive within books now is profound, and I honestly kind of owe it all to this book. And I probably wouldn't have gotten where I am today and how I feel about books today if it weren't for this book. So yeah, it definitely changed my life. Then we have A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the 3rd book in the series. This book really altered me in a way. So I've said it before, kind of doesn't sound great whenever I say it. I really like revenge and female rage in books. Like, a lot. Maybe more than I should. And the first, 100 or so pages of this book show plotting and revenge and female rage and cunning in a way I truly love. Seeing this all play out, I was giggling, kicking my feet. I was so happy and excited about everything going on in the first 100 pages of this book. And maybe that's not great of me, but the revenge plot of this book definitely altered me in a way, because I truly think that it unlocked my more, this is horrible to say on the internet, my more ruthless side. It takes a lot for me to get truly mad and want to be mean to somebody. But once you get there, you're there. And I think this book kind of made it okay for me to get there with people. Because the whole internal misogyny and being nice to everyone all the time does not do it for me anymore. But yeah, I adore this book. It is my favorite book in the entire series. The last couple books I have saved for last are definitely my favorite in the entire video. But yeah, let's get into it. Defy Me by Tahara Mafi. Now, this book is not my favorite book in the Shatter Me series. I adore the Shatter Me series. If you're unaware, I haven't said it in a while, but Aaron Warner is my favorite book boyfriend ever. More than Rhysand, more than Johnny Kavanagh, more than Julian Hates. I love this man so much. And there is a specific line in here that I think about consistently. Like on a daily, weekly basis, this quote comes to my mind. Something happens in this series. I really don't want to give anything away. But obviously conflict is going to arise. It's like an 8-book series. And something happens where they are separated and we're in Warner's mind. And he says, I know what I need to do now. And I know that there's nothing I won't do to go get her. I feel it. Feel my thin morals dissolving. I feel my flimsy, moth-eaten skin of humanity begin to come apart. And with it, the veil keeping me from complete darkness. There is no lines I won't cross. No illusions of mercy. I wanted to be better for her happiness, for her future. This is the line that really gets me. But if she's gone, what good is goodness? Oh my god. When I read that, it like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I just adore this man, and that logic of like, if she's gone, what good is goodness? I've had those thoughts. I'm not even gonna lie about like certain things in life, and I love him so much. And I'm gonna give a spoiler, like a pretty big spoiler. I'm gonna put a little like timestamp to skip to if you haven't read the series, if you are inclined to read the series and don't know what I'm about to say, like skip to this time. He fell in love with her every time. Every time he had his memory wiped, he continuously and continuously fell in love with this girl. And I just can't get over it. That is why he is my favorite book boyfriend ever. I love him so much. He fell in love with her every time. I love him so much. I love this series so much. And that quote, oh my god, I love it so much. What I'm about to show you is a 6-star read. It is the most I have ever tabbed a book. It is one of my most heartbreaking books I've ever read in my entire life. Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. I knew this book would wreck me. Okay, first off, let me show you on my tabs. Like, do you see that? Like, every single page has at least one tab, it seems like. But this entire series, the Magnolia Parks universe, is basically Gossip Girl in London on crack. I honestly think they're much more wealthy than the people in Gossip Girl. And the thing about Gossip Girl is all the characters are horrible, but we love them anyway. And that is what this is. Daisy Hates books specifically, typically, follow the narrative between Christian and Daisy. And then we also always get the perspective of Julian, Daisy's older brother. And Daisy's world is a bit darker than Magnolia's in that it revolves around like organized crime. Her older brother's crime business typically is stealing art and selling it, all that kind of stuff. It's exceptional. It's the morally gray men. I mean, they get me every time. And in this book specifically, Julian falls in love with someone, which like no one thought would happen, first of all. And it just like completely rocks his world, and the ending of this book literally crushed me. Something ends up happening to this girl, and he, like, his whole family is in danger. Like, the crime thing is really kicking in here, and he is so distraught that they need to sedate him in order to get him on this plane out of the country. I love him so much. And like, there's a part where they're lying on the floor together, I think, and I think she says, in another universe, I think I would have loved you. And he says the same back to her. And then we get his thoughts, and he's like, never mind that I already love her in this one. And this is like the quote on the back of the book. It's the moment where he realizes he needs to break up with her because like it's starting to become unsafe for her to be that close to him, because she will be seen as like a target to get to him, if you get what I'm saying. But it says, I don't know that I can read this without crying. It says, "It's the great undoing of my heart as I know it. I love her more than I've ever loved anything, and I thought I might have been able to angle it, find a way for us to work. A life between where I can be who I am and love her how I do, and it not be the death of her. But it's not in the cards. I'd be the death of her, and I won't be." And it just it completely destroys me every time. Like, I literally have a huge tattoo on my arm. Which one? On this arm. about one of the lines in this book where he says, Klimt's kiss is a painting of us, and I'm gonna steal it, take it, make it mine, make her mine too. And I just, oh my god, oh my god. Clearly, I am incredibly emotionally invested in this book. The way that this book affected me was so profound. And I read this entire book in a day. I think I started at 8 a.m. and I finished at 2 a.m. the next day. I don't even know what I can say. This book is everything to me. Next. The last two books I'm going to talk about in this video probably affected me the deepest out of any of these books. And it is Binding and Keeping 13. These are the first two books in the Boys of Tillman series. The series starts with Shannon Lynch starting at a new college, which is high school, like their high school age, but they call it college because they're in Ireland, okay? And she is starting there because she was having such a bad case of bullying at her former school that she had to leave. Like, there was no option. And her mom enrolled her in this private school, Tillman College, and on her first day there, she gets hit in the head by a rugby ball by Johnny Kavanaugh, and he obviously feels horrible about it, tries to help her, all the things. And they very quickly fall in love, but they don't admit it to themselves. They just kind of say that they're friends. It's all, I love every single character in this series so much, except a few. There are a couple that I don't like, but like all of the main characters in this series are impeccable. The found family is impeccable. This series is perfect. I'm starting Saving Six this month. I'm so scared, and I'm gonna get into that now. So both of these books feature incredibly heavily the plot of domestic abuse. In Shannon's family, her father is an abusive alcoholic, and her mother is incredibly complicit in all of this. And most of the time, Shannon is the one taking the abuse, getting hit, and it's really upsetting to see. Like, really upsetting to see. And I'm really just revealing everything about myself on the internet today. I grew up in an environment that was not unsimilar to Shannon's. And there's a specific part in the beginning of the book that she talks about how she could tell what kind of day it was going to be upon like entering the house. Like, you could feel it. You can feel the tension in a house like that. And it just, oh my god, it depicts so accurately what it is like being a child in that environment. And there's another part where Shannon gets like really upset at herself, and she's like, I want to be someone who yells when they get angry, not cry. And that is something I still do. Like, if I'm getting angry about something, I'm talking to them about why I'm upset, I will start to cry. Every time. And they'll always be like, why are you crying? And I'm like, it's literally something I can't control. I don't want to be crying right now. Like, it's just how I am. And, my story did not have a satisfying ending. Obviously, in real life, these things never do. So, to kind of feel that sense of closure from something like this through the books was incredibly cathartic for me. These books really affected me, if that's not clear. And there's a pinnacle of things occurring in her household in the second book. And I remember feeling the anxiety in that scenario, and I knew it was going to happen. Like, way before it did. Like, you get a sense for these things when you grow up in that kind of environment. And it was just horrible. And like, the fear she felt when her dad came back was horrible. Like, I could feel it throughout my entire body, and I just, oh my god, this series is insane. And that's why I'm kind of nervous, obviously, to get back into it, because clearly these books affect me. But they, like, literally, those are two of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. I adore that series so much. I just have a complicated relationship with it, clearly. But yeah, those are the books that have altered me in some way, shape, or form. And I honestly do feel better after talking about some of my favorite books of all time, despite the fact that I was just, like, practically crying. I wanted to take myself out of this depressive thing I've been going through, and clearly things that have transpired in the past week have not made it any better, and it's just really upsetting to think about. So I'm really trying to stay off social media. I'm tired of, like, crying every time I go on social media because of it. So yeah, but I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I realize I've been rambling for like 46 minutes. That is how much I have filmed. So this video will probably be like 30 minutes. Hopefully I can cut down that much footage. If not, I can't even thank you enough for staying till the end of this video, because I am a yapper. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would highly recommend all of these books to absolutely anyone. Just take the trigger warnings seriously. I hope you all are having an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. And if you're not, I really hope it gets better. Yeah. I will see you guys all in my next video. I already have my next video planned, by the way, because when this video is uploaded, this upcoming Saturday will be my 23rd birthday, and I plan on uploading a whole, like, 23 things I have learned in my 23 years of life, and I'm really excited for that video, personally. But I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.